Welcome back to the marketplace. This segment on the Daily Report is usually on matters business that affect the people, and tonight we're talking about the transport sector in depth. Of course, a week ago or so, the Cabinet Secretary for Roads and Transport had spoken about the possibility of tolling a lot of public roads. And this, of course, he said was we have Peter Murima and, of course, we have Albert Karakacha, who are just going to be telling us how exactly this is going to be affecting them. I'll start with you, Peter. If you could just tell us, you represent motorists in Kenya. How exactly was this news taken by motorists?
Yeah, motorists were shocked. We know that we cannot have two levies at the same time, a toll road and what you call a fuel levy. So that's shocked, and I can tell you that we are quite shocked by that declaration by the CS Transport.
Right, of course, yes. This had a lot of mixed feelings. And when it comes to Matatu owners, of course, you are the president of Matatu Owners Association. How exactly was this news taken in by Matatu owners across the country?
To us, it was not taken lightly, and we urge the minister to consult widely because the fuel levy is there, which is catering for the toll. So as Matatu Owners Association, we are overtaxed, and we are urging the minister to relook into what is coming up with, because we are not going to accept it happen.
Right. And Peter, for every litre of fuel, of course, there is an amount that goes to the road maintenance levy, yes, which would be serving the same purpose that the Cabinet Secretary had said the tolling of a lot of these public roads was going to serve. 18 shillings. What exactly do you believe this amount usually goes to? Do you feel like so far it has been deducted from every litre? Is it being used well?
No, we can say authoritatively that the money we pay as the road maintenance levy are not spent well.
Right.
I don't know which authority is in charge of that levy. I think Kenya Roads Board. We have held meetings where we raised our reservations about that the money is quite enough to make sure that we don't have potholes which are causing accidents on our roads.
Right.
But you find that the 18 shillings, which was raised from 6 shillings to 18 shillings, is sufficient to make sure that the roads are constructed or are repaired in good time. But then again, why this discrimination? If you look at the monies that are paid by the transport sector, transport sector is the top taxpayer. So when you subject them again, and they are the ones who pay this exchequer to a discriminatory tax again, that is discrimination. Because roads maintenance and construction are supposed to be done by the exchequer, where we pay all our taxes. But when again motorists or the vehicle owners are again required to pay separately for maintaining the roads, which are helping every citizen, that is discrimination.
Right, so you're saying it's not just a matter of double taxation, it's even triple taxation at this point. That's how exactly, motorists feel across the country. And if we just look towards, some of the notes that we have here, it's that the proposal, that is the tolling of public roads, is set to finance the Kenya National Highways Authority's 5-year plan, of course, from this year to the next 5 or so years. And all public roads are going to be tolled, and we'll have feeder roads as an alternative. Now, if I could just throw this to Albert for a minute. When it comes to feeder roads, we have a lot of these across the country, especially in Nairobi. When we have major highways, we have feeder roads. Do you believe that this could be a good alternative?
Okay, to have feeder roads on our roads is a good alternative because it's going to decongest the city going forward. But what we will urge the government, because of taxes, they need to be very careful when it comes to taxing. Because when you tax us, we are going to push that to the consumer, who is a hustler.
Right.
You see, we are the ones who carry the hustler on our vehicles.
Right.
So the government should be very, very, very careful in terms of bringing in taxes.
Right.
Yeah, going forward, I think they need to consult widely so that as they do the taxing, they should make sure that we are sitting together, and they should come up with a board where everybody is inclusive, so that going forward we know this is what we need to do as a country.
Right, sector players must be involved, and of course public participation is something that came up a lot. A lot of the players within this sector, not only Motorists Association and Matatu Owners Association, but also people who own pickups and of course border bikes, are saying that they are not always included when some of these policies are being made. Right, gentlemen? Now I'm going to throw it to you again, Peter. If you could just tell us, feeder roads as an alternative. Feeder roads already exist, but there's a lot of traffic. Now, if they do toll these public roads, what exactly or how exactly are all the other cars supposed to fill the feeder roads?
It is a constitutional right to move freely. Actually, we say that freedom of movement is a constitutional right.
Right.
So there is no way you can restrict the public from using public roads. And there is no way you can privatize roads and then relegate vehicle owners or drivers or travelers or commuters to feeder roads which are narrow. You cannot take people's right of usage of public roads which they have built using their own taxes. We have built Thika using our taxes and roads which we have serviced or we are servicing. And then the world over, the practice is that where there is a need of construction of road, like we have Mombasa Road, Mombasa-Nairobi highway, you do something we call a BOT, build, operate, and transfer. And this model is the one that brings in the toll or justifies the toll. But then it is not built on a public road. It is secured like we did with the SGR. The SGR secured, or those who, there was a US consortium, Beltec, that wanted to do Mombasa Road by acquiring. But you cannot take a road that already is existing. Yeah, that will be unacceptable.
Right.
Yes.
And on that note, let's get some sentiments from other players as well who are within this particular, sector. Let's have clip one.
The overhead expenses of doing business in this country is scary. You can't put food on the table because when fuel prices went up from 8% to 16% VAT, that crippled our operations. So as operators, we are asking the government to review that move. It is punitive. It does not make economic value.
The levy has gone up so high that it is hurting the mwananchi and the common man who drives. Not just the private drivers, but even the commercial. All of them are at pain.
First, speaker within that clip is John Katimbo, who you both know very, very well. He is the chairman of Matatu Welfare Association. I think I'll start with you, Albert. You're both within the Matatu industry. You both see what exactly is happening. You representing Matatu owners, him, taking care of the welfare of Matatus across the country. Do you agree with his sentiments?
Okay, to me, we can agree with these sentiments because things have gone up. When you go to spares, they've gone up. When you go to tires, they're up. The dollar is rising up every week. You can see right now the dollar is around 162. So to us going forward, I think the government should sit down with the stakeholders to see how we can come up with a way of helping. Because you see, we need to carry the public, and if we cannot sit together and see the good way of making sure that everything is going to be well to everybody. Because we know life is difficult all over, not only in Kenya, but going forward, things are becoming tough, and the common mwananchi is the one carrying the burden. So maybe going forward, we urge the government to sit down with us, see how we can have ways of making things to come down.
Right. Yes. And of course, one of the stories we had today from one of our reporters, Kisewa Emory, he was just trying to elaborate. He had, of course, the CBK chair, Kamau Thuge, who was just talking about the base rate of the loans. So that means that loans are about to get more expensive. I just throw it back to you, Peter. Of course, the second clip was a motorist, he was representing motorists. He was saying how issues are getting harder and harder. Do you agree with his sentiments?
I totally agree with Moshai, who is a member and official of the Motorist Association of Kenya, that driving in Kenya has been, you can say, criminalized. The taxes, we are saying there is something we call sin tax, where you can charge those people who drink a lot, have very high taxes, people who smoke, and then also people now who are driving are being charged something we call a sin tax.
Right.
So it has been criminalized to the extent that we are losing what you call business.
Right.
Many people are not able, those who are in the business of transport of persons, we are hearing it from the horse mouth, that it is so difficult right now, and many people are winding up. Actually, after finding out that you cannot make ends meet, you cannot make any profit because of high fuel prices. We were very optimistic, and we have been quiet. Why we have been quiet, we have given the administration, which we have supported very much, in ensuring, giving them time and space to actually come up with very prudent transport policies.
Right.
Which now will, but now I think our silence has been mistaken, and they have thought that, oh, we can tax the vehicle owner right, left, and center.
Right.
So that is our worry, that taxes right, left, and center.
Right.
If I could count them, they are numerous. And you know, transport is the hub of any economic activity, movement of goods and persons from point B to point A. Once we lack that, transport is so important, just like the money.
Right.
If you don't have transport, there is no economy.
Right.
So we are supposed to have a robust economy by low fuel prices. Right now, we are expecting to be buying fuel at 140 shillings.
Right.
But how much is it costing per petrol? So we have an overcharge of so much, which now we are not using our vehicles.
Right, you say there's an overcharge. Of course, we're going to be delving into the price of fuel per litre, seeing how exactly this is affecting the general economy. And of course, people usually wait for 14th of every month, because that's when you know, is fuel going up? That means my bread is going to be more expensive, my sugar is going to be more expensive. Albert, let's talk solutions before we, wind up with the lobby, what is it called? The toll stations that are proposed to be set in some of these public roads. What do you think are some of the solutions that could be taken up other than feeder roads?
You see, to me, the government should come up with a way, in a way that instead of charging the public, the transport sector, they should come up with other avenues.
Right.
If they are looking for taxes. There are so many ways the government can collect taxes. And we are ready to support the government to see how they can collect those taxes.
Right.
When it comes to the issue of the toll, we urge them that let's maintain the fuel levy. We will support them because we use fuel, but they should come up in a way that they need to see the reduction of fuel, so that, because the way he has said, majority of vehicles are at home.
Right.
So going forward, you get within the matatu sector, we make money during the rush hour, but when it comes to off-peak, we decide to keep our vehicles, because if you put them on the road, you will get that you are making losses.
Right.
So the government should sit down with us. We can be able to help them to see how they can collect taxes from other angles. Within the sector, we still have a way of sitting down with them. We have a lot of corruption. We believe that if we sit down and try to tame corruption in what is happening, the government will be able to collect a lot of taxes.
Right.
Because you get a lot of money goes to corruption. And if we can try to curb corruption, we'll be able to collect a lot of taxes.
Right.
The way he has said, you get those drunkard people. Yeah, the government should impose a lot of nini on the people who are drinking.
Right.
While they are driving. They should pay heavy fines going forward, because they still cause accidents on our roads. So to me, that's some of the ways the government should sit down and see how they can do it, so that they can collect more money.
Right.
Rather than pushing on the toll, pushing on fuel. There are so many avenues we can sit down. Kenyans have brains, and we are able to help the government to get other taxes from other angles.
Right. Waswahili husema haba na haba hujaza kibaba. Right. Peter, I'm going to ask you, now that we've spoken about all of these and we're going to be delving into the prices of fuel, you must tell us, you've spoken about how some of the times when they're taking, informal, you called it informal taxation.
Yes.
When it comes to corruption, that in itself is one of the costs a lot of motorists must bear. Tell us about that.
Yes, in the corruption, we have a problem because there is something we call cash bill scam, where you are caught. We can say most of our law enforcers are good in doing their work, but you find that there is the element of those who love to extort the vehicle owner or the driver by fault finding. They look for a fault in your vehicle until they say gari yako iwezi kosa makosa ama uwezi kosa makosa.
A statement we've all had while on the roads.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then, but we are happy that there is a committee that is working on regularizing what you call the traffic law and under the National Council on Administration umbrella. And we are optimistic that that is going to be addressed, because this is where you lose a lot of money. You are arrested for a flimsy reason.
Right.
And if you look at the other countries, Uganda and our neighbors, they don't arrest petty or minor offenders.
Right.
You can only be arrested for major offenses like drink driving, obstruction, driving without insurance, such major, and actually there are about 4.
Right.
Others you are supposed to be issued with a RENTAC, that is notice to attend court.
Right.
Or a notice of intended prosecution. But right now everybody is being arrested and taken to the police station, which is quite rigorous. Sometimes you are going to to head business. The Kenyans you find on the road, actually driving is not a luxury.
Right.
It is a necessity. But when we treat driving as if people are enjoying some form of a luxury, while they are running about their business, that is what is wrong.
Right.
So we are looking at a fair tax regime and fair law enforcement. Yes.
And of course, involvement of stakeholders. If you were brought to the table when these policies and regulations are usually made, maybe there could have been a bit of more leeway when it comes to some of these petty offenses. Now, Albert, of course, the matatu sector are probably, that is the subsector that suffers the most when it comes to, offside informal taxes. How exactly is your experience on this?
Okay, to us, I think we are talking to the police, because we know majority of the corruption comes from the police side.
Right.
But we are in talk with the IG office, the deputy IG, and he has been of help to us. And we believe going forward, we are trying to urge the government to come up with what we call instant fines. Instant fines whereby you just pay on the spot and move on. And we are even urging the government to remove the roadblocks, because roadblocks, some majority of them, they are the ones who are bringing corruption.
Right.
We need to have mobile police stations, mobile police patrols on the roads. Because if you ask me, let's say from Mombasa, that is Northern Corridor, all the way to Malaba. You see, last year we lost a lot of Kenyans, almost 84, December alone. So to me, because of corruption, that's why we've lost a lot of Kenyans. So we are urging, and we've been talking to the police, we've been talking to the national government to see how they can make even that road to be dual carriage, so that going forward, the police we should just have patrol police, rather than having police stuck in an area collecting bribe. And we are urging, mostly educating our members. If you feel there is a police taking bribe somewhere, try to report. Because we are now in collaboration with the government. We are working very closely to see how to tame corruption.
Right.
Yes.
And a lot of Kenyans usually refer to this as kwa kona.
Yeah, kwa
so
kona.
Usually when there's a bend somewhere in the road where you can't see, that's when they usually take advantage. Now we're going to be going on a very short break. Of course, this conversation is ongoing. When we do come back, we're going to be talking about fuel prices and moving of a lot of the services that this particular sector incurs to the digital space. We go for a very short break. We'll be right back.
Wanasema wasemao kuwa elimu ni bahari haiishi kwa kuchotwa. Wakati mwingi natangamana na wanafunzi madarasani, sio kama mwalimu bali kama nahodha kwenye kipindi cha tasnia ya elimu. Na iwapo utanikosa madarasani, basi utanipata nyanjani nikisaka habari zenye usawa, ufasaha na ukweli. Na iwapo utanikosa nyanjani, bila shaka utanipata studioni hapa nikisoma habari na kuendesha mijadala mikomavu. Mimi ni Andrin Kilemi, mpenzi wa lugha ya Kiswahili na elimu kwa jumla.
They say money makes the world go round. So let's slow things down a bit. Put things in perspective. From the markets to the streets to the stocks, we make the complex comprehensible. Join me, Hibak Saeed, on TV47 Business News for market insights like never before.
The news that matters the most is the one that hits close to home. When disasters strike, we are there to inform you. When the bullets are flying, we tell you who's shooting.
Right, dearest viewer, welcome back to the marketplace. Here in studio, as we went for a very short break, we were arguing over the pros and cons of using public and private transportation. Of course, that's usually a non-factor if it comes to the pricing of fuel. Most of the time, either way, if you're going private or if you're going public, you're still going to feel the pinch. Now, taxation takes up around 80 shillings per litre from every litre that is bought. Petrol, of course, and diesel are both above 200 shillings at the moment. And of course, the road levy stands at 18 shillings, and 55% of fuel price increments is taxes and levies. The upcharge of OMCs, that is oil marketing companies, are also present. So most of the time, each person takes their little bit, and at the end of the day, the charges are, of course, given to the very last consumer. Now, price per barrel at this moment stands at a little over 80 shillings, $80 per barrel. Now, gentlemen, when it comes to taxation, especially when it comes to fuel, something that some of your cars, some of your vehicles are using, it takes up around 80 shillings. Peter, what exactly do you feel about that particular number?
Okay, this is quite high, and we can call it overtaxation. And the reason is that the global prices right now are at 80. And if we are not to have tax, we would buy a litre at 80 shillings if you remove the tax. But when you include the tax, now that is when it's coming to 140.
Right.
But are we buying it at 140? No, we are buying it around 200. And diesel 196 around there per litre.
Right.
So you find that that litre is overburdened. And we need an explanation from EPLA, Energy Petroleum Regulatory Authority, an explanation on what informs their fuel pricing.
Right.
We know that before we lobbied, Motorist Association is the one that lobbied for fuel controls.
Right.
And when we got, why we wanted the fuel controls is because we wanted a predictable fuel pricing for the business persons, and not what you call fluctuations of fuel, sabotage from the multinationals and such. But like now as we speak, all that has been diluted, because when EPRA became now an authority instead of a commission, it used to have independent commissioners. That is why it was ERC.
Right.
but that is what we had lobbied for. But right now we have lost control. We used to have meetings with ERC, but right now, whatever letters we are doing to EPRA, they are just ignoring them. So as a public body, I don't know which public interest they are serving. So we have a problem of accountability and transparency on the authority that is in charge of fuel pricing. Right. And also we have a big issue with G2G because we are told that the G2G was supposed to let the fuel come down, but the opposite has happened. Right. The G2G is the one that is making the fuel remain high, where the global prices is, you said 80 shillings per barrel, per dollar per barrel. Yes.
$80 per barrel in comparison to what we have right now per liter is, there's quite the difference there. And Albert, when it comes to matatus, of course, usually, from what I know, matatus are usually fueled in the morning and of course later on in the day. When it's 80 shillings per liter, let's say a typical matatu, how many liters does it consume when it's given, during the day?
And during the day, we'll say within Nairobi, we consume up to 100 liters. Yes.
100 liters times 196 shillings.
Yeah, which is very expensive compared to the business we are doing. Because majority of the time you get that we are in traffic jam, and the cost we get that we are losing a lot on traffic.
Right.
And maybe what we'll need to urge the government. You see, initially we used to have a liberalization.
Right.
They need to think on that line to see how they can try to bring the fuel down.
Right.
Because if they rely on multinational, because we know multinational are the ones forcing the price to be fixed so that they can make money.
Right.
So if we can do liberalization, it is allowed in our country, it will really help the issue of the fuel to come down.
Right.
And if the government is saying they are taking care of the farmer, you see, when you say you are giving subsidy to the farmer and you increase the fuel, you see, you're still making the same farmer to suffer.
Right.
If you say you are supporting the hustler, the majority of the hustlers are the ones who are using the PSV, that is matatus. And you see the fare goes up, they are the ones suffering. But as we move on, the government need to listen to everybody so that we see how we can help Kenyans to move on.
Right, and opening up the market, of course, brings in the best man to give the best services. Let's have, some of the petroleum dealers, let's have a look at what they have to say.
This is important, and we have to air our voice and say that we are suffering, we are not doing any business from our sector. We know that, and it's like everybody is just, wondering himself, what am I going to do next? Yet we are sharing the same problems, so we need to come together and just talk about it and look for a way we can shout so much and let everybody else, because once we shout, somebody else will shout on the same.
That is Katimbwa, the independent petroleum distributors. These are distributors who are talking about some of their plights. People who are saying, how exactly are we supposed to be surviving in this economy, given that the policies are not always favorable to us? Peter, when it comes to motorists dealing with such distributors, what exactly is happening on the ground?
Yes, I think I'm in concurrence. He's Karanja from Kenya Independent Petroleum Distributors.
Yes, Katimbwa is from the Matatu Welfare Association. I got the names mixed up.
He's Karanja. And I'm in concurrence that action is needed.
Right.
Because you see, as it has been stated, is that right now the regulation that we thought will come from the regulator of fuel prices is not helping the country.
Right.
So we better revert to what my colleague has said here, a liberalized market.
Right.
What we call a free market. Let's go back to free market, where now everyone will sell their fuel and then the competition will bring down the prices. Because now this fixing of prices every month, after every 14th, everybody is scared of I don't know how much. And then these fuel go up and they never come back down again. And when they raise the fuel with huge margins, when they bring them down, they are bringing down with a very small margin. And when we do our calculation, we find that this is not fair. So the oil distributors and all the other stakeholders, we are sitting and we are discussing this because we have given the regulator time to put their house in order and serve as the public, not the interest of the privateer. We call them profiteering privateers. These external interests are being served by our bodies that are public. Right. The bodies that are government, they are KENHA, they are EPRA, they are NTSA, should serve the interest of the local public, not the interest of external business person profiteers. Right. So this is where the problem is. When will our public bodies start serving the interest of the country rather than serving the interest of external forces? Right, Peter, and you have said that you've called EPRA to the table a couple of times. Albert, have you had the same situation? Have you maybe tried talking to the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority? What exactly has come from that? Okay, we've been trying to talk to them. And I think it's a high time for government to come in, because it's like, if you ask me, maybe the president and the deputy president, they mean well. But the people who are in the offices, they don't mean well to the Kenyans. Right. Yeah, we can say, like the other day, the president had to intervene the issue of the judiciary. Now, if you go to government offices, you see, sometimes you are not treated the way you are supposed to be treated. So to me, going forward, the government should come in and push this parastatal to listen to the Kenyans. Because if you ask me where we are going right now, this is a free we may force the government to introduce the free market. Right. So that at the end of the day, we are able to help the Kenyans, the common Kenyans. Because you see, me as a Kenyan, I'll remain in Kenya. Right. But the foreigner will go away. So the multinational are eating into us, making sure that the common mwananchi is suffering. So we urging the government that let's sit down, see how to help the locals so that they can thrive in business. Right. Yes. Now, let's just have a breakdown of some of the taxes and levies that are usually incurred when it comes to every single liter of, petrol, or when it even comes to diesel. These numbers are as at, let's say, last year. They're as at last year, and these are the numbers that were being reflected for petrol. Now, when it comes to road maintenance levy, it's around 18 shillings. 18 shillings of every single litre. That is a little bit above 200 shillings. The petroleum development levy is at 5 shillings and 40 cents. The petroleum regulatory levy is at around a quarter shilling. The railway development levy is at 1 shilling and 68 cents. And thank God, anti-adulteration levy is at 0 shillings. Right? And if we go on with that, we see that also the merchant shipping levy is at 0.03 shillings, which is, none. It's not really a factor at this point. The import declaration fee is at 2 shillings and 81 cents. And the value added tax, which has been doubled, is at around 30 shillings. So the total taxes and levies is at 79 shillings and 32 cents. We've already said that around 80 shillings usually goes to taxation. The president, when he was being interviewed by, a table of different journalists, had said that some of these levies, some of the price changes is usually not the fault of the government. And taxes aren't generally the fault of the government. But at the end of the day, this is money that comes from your pocket, goes into revenue collection that is supposed to come back and build the country. Now, I want us to touch on a couple of things. When it comes to petroleum development levy, around 5 shillings and 40 cents, what are your thoughts on this, Peter? 5 shillings and 40 cents, petroleum development levy. Yes, petroleum development levy is supposed to subsidize fuel, such that when the fuel prices go up, we don't need to keep on changing fuel prices every now and then. Yes. Because it is catered for by that levy. Right. which now they collect the money, and once now the fuel keep on fluctuating, we have predictable prices.
Right.
So now when we have even the other levies that are not connected with driving, like the railway levy, we have other levies that are levied on the 1 liter, we overburden the liter. And that is why, as a nation, we need to have a discussion because we might be killing our transport industry and killing business locally by unfair high fuel prices. So what should we do? We should start a debate to see how we can reduce the taxes and increase consumption.
Right.
Because when you reduce the taxes, you have talked about what you call the economies of scale.
Yes.
Where you have a lot of consumption. We used to consume, for your information, 20 million liters every day. But right now it has shrunk. And even if you try to raise taxes, then the more you raise the taxes, the more the revenue collection goes down.
Yes.
So as a nation, we need to speak with have a national debate on how we are going to be pricing our fuel.
Right.
Whether we require now the unnecessary every month reviews, which are not informed by the importation, because the importation takes almost 3 months. So I don't know what informs every month.
Right.
So we'll be lobbying for the removal of a review for every month and also rolling of the taxes. You cannot have taxes at 80 shillings for every liter that is consumed. Let's stagger the taxation to all other sectors, not to only the motorists, because I think there is a mistake of thinking of taking the vehicle owner as a cash cow. I would say that. Right. That wherever the taxman sees the motorist, he's seeing a cash
potential taxpayer.
Yeah, he's seeing a potential where they'll, if you correct all that, we are kidding, because you see we are paying excise duty that for import of vehicles, very high, it has been increased. And then we need policies where some of the vehicles that are supposed to be imported help a lot, because when we had the regime of, we can call it Moi regime, this is when we had liberation, and this is when we started having the used vehicles, which made now driving become so much easier.
Right.
But when you restrict driving, which is a component of economic development, you restrict it, we are killing our development, because we need to move from point A to point B and pay taxes. And then as long as we are seeing what the taxes are doing, like we cannot complain, the roads has been built. Right. Let's be frank, that the roads have been built. And that is why we are saying in the same model that the roads have been built in the last 2 decades. And you can see that in the region, our country is far much ahead in road construction, or in good roads. And that's why we are saying we should continue with that model, not the other model of being funded by foreigners who want to take our birthright, our roads. So in the same fuel pricing, we would love to come up with policies, let's say generally all policies, even of importing vehicles and all that, so that we can have a policy that is conducive, that is helping. Yeah, we pay taxes, but as long as we are seeing them building the roads. And that is why we raise issues when we find a pothole. Yet we have paid 18 shillings per every liter, which is very high.
Right, of course, every Kenyan wants to see their tax money going, into action. You want to see the roads that has been promised, especially when it comes to, roads that are going into the estates, so on and so forth. Albert, when it comes to the petroleum development levy, of course, this is supposed to cushion you as a consumer so that you don't have fluctuating rates. Of course, Peter has said that he is lobbying and he is trying to get the government to stop giving people anxiety every 14th of every month so that we have, an extended period we can get to see, okay, is this a price we can work with? Do you believe that this has come, to help you, especially in the matatu sector?
Okay, to us it's not helping for now. But maybe going forward, we are talking to government to see how they can come up with the subsidy.
Right.
Because it's the work of the government to carry the public. But we as private, we've come in to see how to support the government.
Right.
And maybe going forward, the government need to relook into the issue of taxation on fuel because it's really hurting our business. And it's not only on fuel because we are taxed double. When you go and buy the tire, you are still paying taxes. When you are buying the spare, you are still paying taxes. When even buying the motor vehicle, you are still paying taxes. So maybe going forward, the government should need to relook into it to see how they can support, because if we continue with what we are doing, that's why you'll get the matatu is unroadworthy.
Right.
Because you are unable to maintain that vehicle because all the money is going to taxes.
Right. Yes. And of course, the cushion might not be cushioning the people who need to be cushioned the most. Let's talk about digitization of a lot of services that motorists and matatu owners usually go for. Let's have the third clip.
As an association, we are petitioning the Director General NTSA that notice should be effected so that we do not have a total collapse from the TIM system to the e-citizen platform.
Right. Peter, what are your sentiments? Of course, that is a member of the Motorists Association of Kenya. What are your sentiments on that?
Yes, there was a transfer that was supposed to happen from TIMS to e-citizen.
Right.
And since December, the collapse.
Right.
You cannot book your inspection. You cannot book, you cannot get the services that we get from the NTSA. And this, we can say, not only the government is losing a lot of revenue, but also we are getting harassed.
Right.
Our members are getting harassed because when you don't have an inspection sticker that is valid or you have booked. So we are having a problem with the NTSA transfer from TIMS to e-citizen, and it's not functioning. From the NTSA right now has not been serving the public.
Right.
And our desk is full of complaints of even the rolling out of the digital number plates, where you are promised to go and take plates which are not there. And then also we are not having, I don't know, we have also a problem with the digital, the smart driving license.
Right.
So we don't know what is happening, and we want to have an explanation from the Director General of what is going on. Probably a statement. We are asking a statement from the Director General of NTSA.
Right, and of course, when it comes to these gaps, officials and officers even who are plying the different roads, when it comes to matatus, do they get harassed now that you know that the TIMS is not working very well?
We know very well that our members are being harassed, particularly with the police, because if you don't have the documentation on your vehicle, now the police will come in, and I think 2 weeks ago I talked to the DG, and I talked to the police, and I told them that they should stop harassing our people. And I think we'll urge the NTSA to run parallel the old system and the new system.
Right. So
that as they move in, it will be easier for them to continue serving Kenyans, rather than right now people are suffering. You get majority of our members have put majority of their vehicles at home, because if you don't have documents, you cannot put your vehicle on the road.
Right.
And we know people are suffering from December. We've been having this problem from December. And we are talking to them to see how we can come up with a good system, because to me, e-citizen, it is all over the government offices. And to me, I'll urge the government, they should not push the issue of e-citizen, because they pushed it to NTSA, and you can see it's really affecting our business.
Right.
And I think the NTSA are losing a lot of revenue as we talk right now.
Right.
Yes.
Because a lot of government services have been moved to the e-Citizen platform. A lot of things are being paid for, you know, on the e-Citizen platform. And allegedly, even for one of the universities, they are required to pay for their food within the university through e-Citizen. So we ask, you know, of course, ending corruption is one thing, but debilitating a lot of services is usually another thing altogether. You said that the most soluble solution right now is to run it parallel with the system that they used to have. Peter, do you feel like this is a solution they could take up?
Yes, because you see now, I think NTSA, we might be blaming them for reasons that are not justified. One is that they have been overburdened by a lot of what you call jobs or work. A lot of, at their desk, they have a lot of roles.
Right.
You know, a lot of roles were taken from the police, and it is the right time that now we remove some of the roles that the NTSA are playing, and they are not playing them effectively.
Right.
We put them back to the NPS, that is the National Police Service, under a commandant. We used to have the reporting of accidents, the statistics, the testing of drivers, the inspections, and the NPS. But right now, as we speak, inspections no longer happen. Even when they were thinking about something that motorists protested and rejected through a petition which they signed.
Right.
On privatizing or actually inspecting private vehicles or private cars. You find that NTSA are not doing inspection as we speak. And this explains why we are having the aspect of road accidents.
Right.
Because the correct inspection, it's not only the one that is done annually. There are those that are done sporadically, to ensure that people are maintaining their vehicles to a certain standard. But when we lack that, so why don't we then put back, we'll be robbing that driver testing, driver inspections, and some other functions revert back to NPS, who are finding it quite easy, and they have a lot of personnel and expertise to do some of the roles that have been taken by the NTSA.
Role sharing, of course, could be very important in solving some of these problems. Albert, do you believe that the NTSA might be a bit overburdened? Are they, you know, biting more than they could chew?
Yeah, it is true they are overburdened, and maybe going forward, the government need to look into it and transfer some of the roles to traffic, because initially traffic were in charge of accidents. They were in charge of inspections, and by then, if you try to check the history, we did not have a lot of corruption. But right now, if you go, you don't need to take your vehicle to inspection, but you will get the inspection while you're at home. So you'll get your driving license. You don't need to know how to drive, but you'll be able to get your driving license. So to me, the government need to look into it and see how they can try to remove some of the roles.
Right, and you know, some of these roles were given to the NTSA to reduce the high number of accidents that were occurring on our streets, but we haven't seen much of a difference in that regard. Peter, say they do not change, you know, these roles, and they do not give back these roles. Do you believe that there are other ways, other solutions that NTSA could take up?
Yeah, there are these things we call the world best practices, and we have experts who know about road safety. Are we involving them? We have standards. Right now, we have a standard that is being worked on, or is working in the world. So we are miles behind what is the policies and standards of the world when it comes to road safety.
Right.
Some of them are road design, some of them are behavior, and all that. Because you'll find that when you are driving in this country, you'll be able to break the rules and get away with it. What can happen most if you are caught breaking the rule? You buy your own freedom easily.
Okay.
That's why when you are driving to our neighbor, even if I don't want to mention names, immediately you get to their border, you start observing traffic regulations.
Right.
and you are the same person. So we are talking about something that is pathological in this country. So we need to bring in expertise, whom we have expert and apply scientific methods to stop the accidents. But right now, we can say that our good transport authority is lethargic, sorry to say so.
Right. Lethargic, he says. Now that we are concluding this conversation, maybe Albert, what are your final sentiments when it comes to all of these agencies that you have to deal with, the government and even sometimes the private sector? What are your final sentiments?
You see, to me, the majority of the agencies are supposed to regulate. And maybe going forward, the government should come up with a way how to give some of the powers to other institutions so that going forward, if it is NTSA, let them regulate.
Right.
Rather than they are regulating and they are still doing the same work. You see, you cannot be a regulator.
Right.
And you become enforcer. It can't work.
Right.
Let's give the enforcer job to maybe to the traffic. Let's give other jobs to other institutions so that going forward it will be easier for NTSA to make sure that they are doing their mandate.
Right.
Yes.
And that's very important, especially when it comes to Kenya. So your concluding statements, Peter.
Yes. So we are happy that our media, you are concerned about transport matters and also what is aiding the transport sector, and especially when we have a lot of accidents.
Right.
Accidents are very dangerous because when a loved member of family goes to the roads healthy and never to come back again is so tragic. So we are happy that the media is at the forefront in championing against this vices and especially also bad policies. We are also looking at what you call as an association. We would rather we have the national assets remain public.
Right.
That is the roads. That is our pipeline, our DIA pipeline, and also National Oil Corporation of Kenya.
Right.
Those ones we have said let them remain public. As far as there are external forces forcing us to privatize, there are some assets we cannot privatize.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a very important sentiment that you are concluding with. And I'm seeing Albert is already itching. So I must ask you, what do you believe or what do you see is the benefit or even the challenges that could come from privatizing a lot of the agencies that you are used to getting services from?
Okay, to me, privatization is not bad, but we need to know as we do it, how are we going to do it?
Right.
We need to have that involvement so that going forward, we should not let everything maybe leaving some of these foreigners coming in and messing up with our privatization.
Right.
You can see like Mumias, what was happening there. I think the president is doing something on it, and we appreciate. So going forward, the government should be very keen on the issue of privatization. Yes.
Must weigh what are the advantages, what are the disadvantages, how exactly can this affect the people? And of course, you know, government agencies ni utumishi kwa wote. We usually assume that when we go there, we're going to be catered to as everyone else usually does. Thank you so much for being a part of this conversation tonight. We were talking about the transportation sector, how exactly it has been affected. What are some of the things that are happening in that particular sector, including some of the, you know, policies and regulations that the government is trying to push and how exactly that is going to pan out, considering that a lot of revenue is usually generated from this particular sector. This is The Marketplace. Thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. Have yourselves a very lovely